There are mornings when your alarm rings, and for a few seconds, you actually believe today will be different. You told yourself last night that you would wake up early, that you would work out, that you would study, that you would finally start building the life you keep imagining in your head before you fall asleep. But then it happens. You open your eyes, and you don't feel like it. You don't feel motivated. You don't feel inspired. You don't feel ready. So you reach for your phone. Just 5 minutes. 5 minutes turn into 30, 30 turns into an hour, and suddenly the version of you that was so determined last night disappears like it never existed. Let me ask you something. How many dreams have you postponed because you didn't feel like starting? How many goals are still goals because you were waiting for the perfect mood? Here's the uncomfortable truth no one likes to admit. You are not lazy. You are addicted to waiting for motivation. We live in a world that worships motivation. We scroll through short videos that give us a temporary rush of inspiration. We listen to powerful speeches. We save quotes. We feel unstoppable for 10 minutes, and then the feeling fades. Because motivation is a feeling, and feelings are unstable. One day you feel powerful, the next day you feel tired. One day you feel confident, the next day you doubt yourself. If your progress depends on your feelings, your progress will always be inconsistent, and that's where most people lose. Not because they lack talent, not because they lack intelligence, but because they lack the ability to act when they don't feel like it. Think about it. The gym is full in January when everyone feels motivated. By February, it's empty. The notebooks are brand new at the start of the semester. 2 months later, they're collecting dust. It's not that people stopped wanting success, they just stopped feeling excited, and they thought that meant they should stop. But what if the real difference between an average life and an extraordinary one is this: the ability to move without mood? Imagine two versions of you. Version 1 wakes up and asks, "Do I feel like it today?" If the answer is no, they delay. Version 2 wakes up and says, "It doesn't matter how I feel, I do it anyway." 5 years later, those two versions are living completely different lives. Same intelligence, same background, same opportunities, different standards. The world doesn't reward you for how motivated you feel. It rewards you for what you do repeatedly. And here's something even harder to hear. Every time you say, "I'll do it tomorrow," you are training your brain to break promises to yourself. Every broken promise makes you trust yourself less, and when you don't trust yourself, your confidence disappears. That's why discipline is not about productivity, it's about identity. Right now, you might believe you are someone who struggles with consistency, but maybe you're just someone who hasn't learned how to act without emotion yet. Because the truth is, no one feels like doing hard things all the time. Not the successful people you admire, not the athletes, not the entrepreneurs, not the top students. They just decided that their goals are more important than their temporary feelings. And this is where everything changes. The moment you stop asking, "Am I in the mood?" and start asking, "Who do I want to become?" Because the person you want to become doesn't wait for motivation. They build it. They don't negotiate with comfort. They don't debate with laziness. They don't wait for perfect conditions. They move. Even when it's boring, even when it's repetitive, even when no one is watching. So today, before we talk about strategies, hacks, or systems, I want you to sit with one powerful question. If your future depended on what you do when you don't feel like it, would you be proud of your current habits? This is not about being extreme. It's not about being perfect. It's about becoming the type of person who keeps promises to themselves. Because once you master that, you don't need motivation anymore. You become unstoppable.
There comes a moment, quiet, almost invisible, when you realize something uncomfortable. It was never about time. It was never about talent. It was never about resources. It was about a decision you keep postponing. Because after you admit that mode is unreliable, a new question appears. If I can't rely on motivation, then what can I rely on? This is where most people panic, because without motivation, they feel exposed. They feel like they are standing on empty ground. No excitement, no emotional boost, no rush, just silence. But that silence is where discipline is born. Discipline is not loud. It doesn't shout. It doesn't give you goosebumps. It whispers. Do it anyway. You see, motivation makes you feel powerful for a moment. Discipline makes you powerful for a lifetime. And the first shift you must make is this. Stop asking how you feel. Start deciding who you are. Most people wake up and ask, do I feel productive today? High performers wake up and say, I am productive, so I act like it. Do you see the difference? One waits for emotion, the other operates from identity. If you believe you are someone who is inconsistent, your brain will find evidence to prove it. If you decide you are someone who finishes what they start, your brain will begin looking for ways to act accordingly. Identity drives behavior. Behavior reinforces identity. It becomes a loop. And right now, many people are trapped in the wrong loop. They skip one workout, they say, see, I'm lazy. They procrastinate once, they say, this is just who I am. But that's not who you are. That's just what you practiced. You practiced quitting when uncomfortable. You practiced delaying when bored. You practiced negotiating with yourself. And practice makes permanent. But here's the powerful part. You can practice discipline the same way. It doesn't start with huge changes. It starts with small, non-negotiable actions. When you say you will wake up at 6, you wake up at 6. Not because you feel amazing, but because you said you would. When you promise yourself 30 minutes of study, you sit down. Not because it's exciting, but because your word matters. And every time you follow through, something invisible happens. You rebuild trust with yourself. That trust becomes confidence, and confidence becomes momentum. Let me tell you something most people never realize. The reason you feel unmotivated is often because you no longer believe yourself. You've broken too many small promises. You said you would start Monday. You didn't. You said you would stop procrastinating. You didn't. So your brain stopped taking you seriously. Discipline is how you earn your own respect back. Not in one dramatic moment, but in quiet consistency. Imagine this. It's late at night, you're tired, you don't want to finish your task. Everything inside you says, just skip it. And then you pause. You remember who you are becoming. You open your laptop, you write one paragraph, you do 10 push-ups, you review one page. Small action, huge impact. Because in that moment, you proved something to yourself. Your feelings do not control you. And the more you prove that, the less power your mood has over your future. This is the foundation. Before hacks, before productivity systems, before morning routines, you must decide. I am someone who does what needs to be done. Even when it's boring, even when it's hard, even when I don't feel like it. Because once you make that decision, discipline stops being a struggle. It becomes who you are.
Now that you understand that discipline begins with identity, the next battle is practical. Because knowing you should act without mood is one thing. Actually doing it when your bed feels warm, when your phone feels tempting, when your mind whispers later, that's different. This is where most people collapse. Not because they don't want success, but because the gap between intention and action feels too big. You look at your task, and it feels overwhelming. You look at your goal, and it feels far away. You look at your current energy, and it feels low. And your brain searches for escape. Start tomorrow. Wait until you feel ready. Do it when you have more energy. But here's the truth. You don't need more energy. You need less resistance. And resistance grows when tasks feel huge. So instead of trying to become a hero overnight, you shrink the battle. You apply one simple rule, just 5 minutes. Not an hour, not perfection, not the full transformation. 5 minutes. Because starting is the hardest part. Your brain exaggerates the pain of beginning. It tells you the workout will be unbearable. It tells you studying will be exhausting. It tells you working will drain you. But once you begin, something shifts. Momentum takes over. Most of the time, the problem was never the task. It was the thought of the task. So when you don't feel like doing something, don't ask, "Can I finish this?" Ask, "Can I do this for 5 minutes?" 5 minutes of reading, 5 minutes of cleaning, 5 minutes of practice, 5 minutes of planning. Because 5 minutes destroys excuses. And once you start, you'll often continue. But even if you don't, even if you stop after 5 minutes, you still won. Why? Because you acted despite your mood. That builds strength. Now let's go deeper. There's another enemy hiding inside you. Negotiation. The silent conversation that sounds logical. "I'll skip today and double it tomorrow. I deserve a break. It's just one day." And maybe, once in a while, that's true. But most of the time, it's not logic. It's comfort disguising itself as reason. Every time you negotiate with yourself and lose, you weaken your authority. Imagine a leader who gives orders but never follows through. Would anyone respect them? Your mind is the same. If you constantly change the rules based on how you feel, your discipline collapses. That's why you need non-negotiables. Not extreme ones, but clear ones. If you say you train 3 times a week, you train 3 times a week. No debate. If you say you study 1 hour daily, you study 1 hour daily. No internal courtroom. When the decision is already made, there is no discussion. And when there is no discussion, there is no drama. It becomes simple. Hard, but simple. And simplicity is powerful. Because the more decisions you remove, the less your emotions interfere. You don't wake up and ask, "Should I?" You wake up and execute. This is how people who seem naturally disciplined operate. They don't fight themselves every morning. They decided long ago. So now the question isn't, "How do I feel today?" It becomes, "What does my standard require?" Standards shape behavior. Low standards create comfort. High standards create growth. If your standard is, "I work only when motivated," you will remain average. If your standard is, "I act regardless of mood," your life begins to shift. Slowly, quietly, powerfully. And here's the beautiful part. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to reduce the gap between what you say and what you do. One action at a time. One 5-minute start. One non-negotiable decision. Because every time you choose action over emotion, you are rewriting who you are. And eventually, acting without mood won't feel heroic. It will feel normal.
And this is where everything becomes real. Because understanding discipline, practicing 5-minute starts, setting non-negotiables, all of that means nothing if you don't confront the most important question. Who are you becoming? Close your eyes for a second and imagine yourself 5 years from now. Not the fantasy version, not the filtered version, the real version built from your daily habits. If you continue acting only when you feel motivated, where will you be? Same excuses, same unfinished goals, same "I'll start next week." But if you begin acting regardless of mood, if you become someone who keeps promises to yourself, your future shifts. Not dramatically overnight, but permanently. Because success is not built in bursts of inspiration, it is built in boring, repetitive, uncomfortable consistency. And here's the part nobody talks about. Discipline feels hard in the moment. Regret feels hard for years. Choose your heart. It's hard to wake up early. It's hard to stay average. It's hard to train when you're tired. It's hard to feel insecure in your own body. It's hard to study when you don't feel like it. It's hard to watch others live the life you wanted. You will suffer either way. The question is, will you suffer for growth or suffer from regret? Because every day, your future self is watching you, watching how you respond when things get boring, watching how you respond when things get uncomfortable, watching how you respond when nobody is clapping. And that version of you is either being built or being betrayed. Let this sink in. Every time you act despite your mood, you vote for the person you want to become. Every time you quit because you don't feel like it, you vote for the person you're trying to outgrow. Your life is a reflection of accumulated votes, small ones, invisible ones, daily ones. You don't become disciplined in one dramatic decision. You become disciplined when you decide that your standards matter more than your emotions. When you stop announcing big goals and start proving small commitments. When you stop waiting to feel powerful and start acting powerful. Because confidence is not built by thinking, it's built by evidence. Evidence that you show up, evidence that you finish, evidence that your word means something. And once you collect enough evidence, you don't need motivation videos anymore. You don't need perfect conditions. You don't need external pressure. You move because that's who you are. So today, not tomorrow, right now, pick one thing, one task you've been delaying, one promise you've been breaking, one action you've been avoiding, and do it. Not because you feel ready, not because you feel inspired, but because you're done living under your emotions. Let this be the day you stop negotiating. Let this be the day you raise your standard. Let this be the day you decide, I don't wait for mood. I create momentum. Years from now, you won't remember how you felt today, but you will live with the consequences of what you did. So act, even if it's small, even if it's imperfect, even if it's uncomfortable. Because discipline is not about being extreme. It's about being consistent when it would be easier not to be. And the moment you master that, you don't just control your habits, you control your future.